Okay, I'm gonna get something out of my chest today. So, about a year ago, I worked as a computer scientist in a foundation that helps psychomotor disabled. When I began to work there, I had a superior, which was in his 40s, that was supposed to learn me the job. But there was also a service providing company that came once a month. I didn't think much of them, because they worked on the server and at this time I wasn't allowed to touch them. But my superior, that we'll call Gary for the sake of this video, didn't like them, and the reason was pretty simple. He really liked free software, not the unprofessional kind, the kind that you can modify if you know enough in coding. And the service providing company was a lot in the Windows kind of environment, which is true is more known, but also costs a lot of money. Also, the foundation was a non-profit organization, so we didn't have a lot of it. So Gary opened up for the cheapest, aka the free, solutions. So yeah, they didn't really like each other. And one day I was coming back from information and learned that Gary was fired and everything at the foundation was in a big mess. Which will certainly be the subject of another video. Also to say, I was now by myself with the service providing company. At this time, I lived hell. Basically, when they weren't here, I had a 50% chance that I would encounter a problem that I couldn't solve. And that was 90% of the time their fault. And when they came, let's just say I learned to hate when they came. There was 4 men. A third guy that was pretty nice, I don't have much to say about him. He was actually respecting me and I didn't have any problem with him. A second guy that almost never came and I don't remember much of him. A third guy that was a short Asian that really got on my nerves. Since he'll have some importance in the rest of this video, let's call him Cheng. But that's racist. Yeah, but I really didn't like him. Okay. And the last one was the worst. He was a contemptuous nerveball that often yelled at me for no reason. So I call him Michael. You know, because he was bad. So each time they would come, I hoped it was Mr. Nice Guy that came. And one day, I learned that our office were moving to another building. So I was in charge of packing everything in my office and 80% that was in there. Our offices were next to each other, so I guess it was fine. It didn't puzzle me at the time, so I did it. Thus, I packed everything. PCs, hard drives, cables, and globally a ton of electronic components. Luckily, at this time we weren't called a lot since I think it was the holidays, so I had time to do it. Once I finished packing most of the things, I asked if I could pack some USB keys and manuals that were on a shelf. And Chang said yes. I swear I said yes, I'm certain of it. And something like an hour later, they needed one of the freaking USB keys that I just packed. And he began to say he didn't ask me to do it. But that's not the worst. I can let it pass. I can. So we moved to the other building with the help of a technical service. And here, I want to apologize. Because at the time, I wasn't conscious that I should have watched the weight of the box. I mean, I didn't have a lot of time to pack things, so I opened up for the easiest way to do it. And I thought, hey, all the switches are rectangular. And by the way, by switch, I don't mean the game console. I mean this. This is basically a thing that links server and PCs between them. So I put all the switches in the same box, and it ended up weighing 90 kilograms. That's almost 200 pounds! And someone had to carry it to put it on a cart and then re-carry it to drop it at our new office. So yeah, I'm sorry. Back on the subject, the next day when everything was moved, I was in charge of unpacking everything and plugging 2 computers. Mine, and the computer that was used by the service providing society to manage server. So I did what I could, considering we didn't arrive in an empty room. We were surrounded by patient archives that were taking a lot of place. And I also needed to move some furniture, to install the PCs. It was complicated. I also needed to check if the switches were well configured to be on the good network. It was a mess, but somehow I managed. I did it in one day, and I was pretty proud of my work. But the next day, Michael came. I always arrived later than them since they began 30 minutes before me, so when I arrived the office was open, unlocked. The same office that contained private information about patients of a foundation, which was confidential medical information. It's like top secret before 6 people. And the light was on. So yeah, ecology. Once I dropped my coat, someone called. It was Michael. He asked me to go meet him in the server room. I headed there. At this point, I was really angry. My blood was boiling in my veins and I was ready to punch him in the face. Well, not really, but still, I was mad. But I took on myself, breathed deeply, and went to meet him. Once here, he asked me to close the door. After doing so, I began to blame him for what he did, that not locking the archives was irresponsible, that anyone could have stole private information if they wanted to. He was like in his early 30s, by the way. And you know what? He retorted me that I did a bad job replugging everything. Apparently, there wasn't enough space for Mr. Michael to work properly. And that was why he was in the server room to work instead. And the server room is cold to keep the server from overheating. So I looked at him right in the eyes and told him, if you're not happy with it, do it yourself. And left. Boom! Booyah! Roast! What you gonna do? Sorry I can't hear you over my wholesomeness. And he never bothered me again. So, moral of this story, if someone bothered you at work, make a second Cold War against them. Yay! Thank you for watching this video, I hope you liked it. I kinda dropped the whole lip syncing thing since it was too time consuming. Seriously, for the last video it took me 4 hours to do 15 seconds of video. But I hope you still liked it. That, have a good day. Bye!